I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. Who is our invocation?
There's no invocation.
We have no invocation this evening. Commissioner Lawson, you're always good at that. Would you like to do our invocation? If you don't mind, do it in impromptu. Thank you very much.
Pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all the blessings you've given this county and this country. Thank you for our leadership. Help this group to always make decisions that are based on what's best for the people we represent and not for ourselves. Take care of our first responders, those that are serving our country overseas and locally to protect our citizens. Take care of this county and help us to grow in the right direction. Always be with us. We value your protection. We ask this all in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte?
Here.
Commissioner Withington? Here. Commissioner Lawson? Here. Commissioner Wagner? Here. Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson? Here. Commissioner Carpenter? Here.
With that, we have approval of the agenda. Commissioner Withington, were you seeking recognition? No. Oh, very well then. Let me get back to my screen here. Commissioner Johnson, were you seeking recognition?
Move to approve.
Hold on, let me get you on there. There you are.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next are ceremonial matters. We have one matter that is 2026-56. Mr. Administrator, if you'd like to introduce that, then I will recognize Commissioner Withington to go forward with that. So please proceed.
Yes, good evening. We have 2026-56, honorary resolution honoring Deputy Vicente Vargas for life-saving actions regarding a recent event.
Okay. Commissioner Withington, if you would like to, yes, your mic is on, so please proceed.
All right. This says, whereas on January 30th, 2026, deputies of the Clay County Sheriff Office responded to a report of an unresponsive individual. And whereas Deputy Vargas arrived on scene and immediately assessed the medical emergency involving a non-breathing individual. And whereas, without hesitation, Deputy Vargas deployed a newly issued AED, one of the first of its kind devices placed into service in Missouri, and administered life-saving aid. And whereas through the swift and decisive use of the AED and the coordinated efforts of responding emergency personnel, including Liberty Fire and EMS, the individual began breathing independently prior to transport to Liberty Hospital. And whereas the actions of Deputy Vargas exemplified the highest standard of professionalism, preparedness, courage, and dedication of public service. And whereas the successful deployment of the newly acquired AED highlights Clay County's commitment to equipping its deputies with cutting-edge life-saving technology and ensuring the safety and well-being of its residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clay County Commission hereby recognizes and commends Deputy Vargas for his outstanding life-saving actions on January 30th, 2026, and express its deepest appreciation for his service to the citizens of Clay County. And be it further resolved that the Clay County Commission extends its gratitude to the Clay County Sheriff's Office, Kearney Fire, and EMS personnel for their coordinated and professional response to this emergency situation. So join us tonight. We have Deputy Vargas and other members of the Sheriff's Office. Just appreciate your service and thank you for all you do, and thank you for saving this individual's life.
Before we present the certificate, the honorary certificate, any other commissioners wishing to ask any questions or make any comments? Commissioner Johnson.
Just real briefly, I know, having spent a career in law enforcement myself, law enforcement can often get pretty callous on a lot of things. And one of the things that they become callous about is doing things exactly like this. I'll bet this officer, this deputy said, you know what, it's just what I do. It's just my job, that's what I do. And a lot of officers, a lot of deputies are just like that. It's just what I do, it's not a big deal, that's what we do. But it is a big deal. And sometimes we need to stop and pause and let you realize that it is a big deal. And the rest of us and the rest of society who realizes it's a big deal wants to say thank you for what you did. So we appreciate what you did, and thank you very much.
Okay. Any other commissioners wishing to say anything before we go forward? Deputy, would you like to say anything? I know that you're, as with most heroic people, so you're reluctant to come forward, but certainly we would be honored and happy to hear whatever you might have to share with us.
No, not the sheriff. You. Not him, you.
You can cuff the sheriff if you want to. We're okay.
Hello, I'm Deputy Vargas. I just wanted to tell you guys thank you. I guess kind of like how you were saying, I guess it seemed like one of those things where you feel like it's just another day, one of your ordinary job duties, something that you kind of just get trained. And I'm kind of just happy that I got the training on that AED and just being able to quickly be able to use it and be able to save the guy's life and know that he's doing good and that hopefully I gave him, you know, a few decades more to live. But I want to thank you guys as well for giving me the honor to come up in front of you guys and speak in front of you guys.
Thank you very much. And as I say, I mean, you exemplify what a hero is, and a hero not only does the kind of things that we're honoring that you have done tonight, but they do it quietly and they do it humbly. And certainly we are all honored to have you here and, you know, working with the sheriff. So we are very proud to have you here with us tonight. With that, is there any other comment? If not, we will go forward and present the certificate.
Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Well, while I have your attention, stay up here with me. Will Aiken, Clay County Sheriff. You know, the actions of Deputy Vargas is an illustration of the commitment for all of our deputies. But I would be remiss in saying, or not saying, that this is a team effort, right? Deputy Vargas wouldn't have been able to save the gentleman's life if it hadn't been for the efforts of Christine Poles, our risk manager, and the Clay County staff and team that makes up our risk management team. Because they're the ones, Christine's the one that saw this new product, and I think she's sitting right here. She saw this new product and she brought in a demonstration. It was demonstrated to our team and we saw that, and going from the old product to the new product, I mean, streamlined how we're able to deploy life-saving measures. And I just want to recognize county staff with the risk management team, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to deploy this product, and we wouldn't have been able to save someone's life. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing out the teamwork involved that we don't necessarily see. So appreciate that. Very well. Any other comments? All right. We'll go ahead and go on down to the floor. It's always great when we can have those moments here, and we certainly have enough heroic individuals to have them on a regular basis. Next would be public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the commission on any issues that are important to them? Seeing none. Next, our discussion items. There are two discussion items. The first one is property and casualty annual renewal. Mr. Administrator, if you'd like to introduce that, and we'll proceed.
Yes. Good evening. Our first discussion item is a property casualty renewal, annual renewal. I have Christine, which is our risk manager, Christine Pulse. She just mentioned regarding the AED product that we have now. I'll let Christine kind of take it from there regarding that.
Good evening, Commissioners. Christine Coles, Risk Manager. CBIZ and I are pleased tonight to present to you the 2026 Property and Casualty Renewal. This year, like previous years, it went smoothly and efficiently thanks to all of the departments that contribute data to the renewal process. I know you are greatly anticipating what the renewal is going to be this year, and so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Heidi Walker with CBIZ.
Good evening. Again, I'm Heidi Walker with CBIZ Insurance. I am located in our St. Joseph, Missouri office and work very closely with our Kansas City team, which I have two members with us this evening. I have Rachel Burton, who is the county's senior account manager, and Adam Davis, the associate account manager. And we'll tell you we're extremely pleased with the offer that we received this year, and with that, we'll get down to it. On the agenda this evening, we'll discuss the state of the marketplace in the insurance industry, our marketing efforts, which were extensive this year, your premium summary, which I know is one of the most important features, and I'd also like to talk about some of the risk management processes and programs that have had impact on the county's insurance. Oh, it's not showing up. There we go. I was like, there's all kinds of color here we're missing out on. And then there'll be questions at the end. However, I am not one that doesn't want to be interrupted. If during this presentation you have any questions on the topic at hand, please stop me and I'd be more than glad to field those questions at that time. With the state of the market, we look at the insurance companies and the expectations on renewals based on the different lines of coverage. Any of you that have been in past presentations, you're going to hear the same story as what you've heard in the past several years. When it comes to property, Mother Nature has just wreaked havoc across the United States for nearly the past decade. We don't have numbers for 2025 complete as of yet, industry-wide, but by the numbers on this slide, there have been 27 separate billion with a B, billion climate-related disasters in 2024. With these year after year happening, the insurance companies had to respond, and they did so in several ways. The first is they increased your rates. The second is they increased your deductible structure. And the third thing is they cut back on basically their capacity usage. They stopped looking at new business, basically either stayed on the accounts that they had. In some cases, if there were losses, they even asked them to go. So the property market has been very difficult over the last several years. With that said, these higher rates, higher deductibles in years past with the carriers have caused for our 2026 renewals being at a flat or slight increase on rate, and we've seen the carriers even stabilize their stance on deductibles and not continuing to increase them. However, the capacity issue and carriers taking on new limits is still a problem. With our auto, Mother Nature's wrath also affects commercial auto more so than personal auto due to the fact that most commercial autos are not stored in garages. They are out in the open. So all of these wind, hailstorms, wildfires that we've dealt with on the property side also affect the auto, which increases property rates, which therefore increases property premiums. Anyone has bought a car recently, whether it be new or used, you've seen the increase in prices. Those increase in prices also affect the insurance premium on autos because claims settle higher. Supply chain issues and increased cost in the parts, increased cost in paying labor, all of those factors come into play and raise the insurance premium rates for commercial auto. And then we've seen a significant increase in severity and fatality claims. I personally believe it is distracted driver. A lot of usage of electronics and whatnot caused those claims to settle at a much higher level than they have in historic years. When we look at liability and excess liability, which liability not only includes general liability, it also includes your specialty lines liability coverages, such as your law enforcement liability, your public entity management liability, your employment practices liability. All of those come over are included in the liability heading. The settlements and awards that juries have been given on claims has been historically high. There are funding companies out there that are providing capital to litigators for a piece of the pie, basically, that drives those claims up, thus driving the rates up. But more importantly and more impactful is the cost of reinsurance. And just a brief description of what that is. When a policyholder purchases limits from an insurance carrier, whether it be primary or excess, the carrier doesn't always hold those limits in-house. They buy insurance on those limits that they don't want to keep under their own umbrella. That's called reinsurance. Over the last decade, there have been fewer players in that market. Therefore, competition doesn't exist like it used to. And with the case of claims settling higher, it has certainly resulted in an increase in reinsurance costs that are then passed down to the policyholders. Before I get into marketing results, I want to talk about the process a little bit. So there are hundreds of insurance carriers filed to do business in our region. However, there are only a select few that are willing to underwrite and provide terms and coverages for public entities due to the sovereign immunity issues, your specialty coverages like law enforcement, your exposures such as your lake hazards. Some carriers just don't want to file for that, therefore they're not going to be able to entertain a public entity account. Of those handful that will entertain a public entity account, they've got some pretty strict eligibility requirements. Some are based on limit size, population size, the activities that you have. So there's a lot of requirements, so to speak, that you have to meet before a carrier will consider providing an option to you. Loss ratio is also looked at by every carrier. And a loss ratio is basically historic losses put into a formula with historic premiums. Once the loss ratio is over 55%, an account is no longer considered profitable. Insurance companies collect your premium to pay losses, but they also have to pay their overhead. So when an insurance company is looking at your account, one of the first things they'll look at is your loss ratio. So let's go ahead and talk about our marketing efforts on property and inland marine. Prior to 2025, Clay County had all of their coverages with Travelers. At last year's renewal, if you recall, CBIZ went to Chubb to get a property in inland marine markets. At that time, they were very interested in writing property specific to public entity. When the results came in, they had a much better premium and a more attractive deductible structure set up, so the county moved their property to Chubb. During the 2025 policy term, there were a few hiccups, I will call them, with the Chubb boiler inspector, not just with Clay County, but with all Chubb policyholders that have been addressed, and CBIZ Loss Control is getting involved with those. However, due to that situation, we went to full market on property this year. So we went to 8 carriers and brokers. Chubb was the only offer we received. Even went back to Travelers and asked if Travelers would look again, but due to their capacity and our loss ratio of 88%, which they paid those claims, they declined as they'll wait another year and possibly consider it then. But the 8 brokers and carriers that we approached declined for various reasons. One was you were too big. Limits were too high. 1-year limits were not high enough. They want $500 million and above. One carrier that used to write public entities, Liberty, in the state of Missouri, has pulled out. They have had such bad experience in Missouri, they're no longer offering it. But Chubb was the only carrier that we have this year that's providing the property terms and conditions. On your casualty lines, your loss ratio is 43%, which is profitable, but is edging toward that 55%. We went to 10 carriers and brokers. Chubb offered a renewal, and we also received a renewal from MoPerm. Now, MoPerm is a little different than your average insurance carrier. They are a Missouri-only member program for public entities only. They have very different philosophies and do not offer excess limits or work comp. Their premium came in relatively close to Travelers. However, without work comp and excess, we had to seek additional coverages to fill in before we could consider that offer. So on your work comp, your 4-year loss ratio is 33%, which I will tell you the improvement we have seen over the last 2 years on your work comp has been amazing. It's obvious that your risk management programs and processes have been impactful when it comes to your work comp. I have listed your last 4 years of experience mod, number of claims, and the incurred loss amount. I know you folks questioned that last year, so there it is for you for your review. But we approached 7 carriers. We have a renewal offer from Travelers, and then MEM, Missouri Employers Mutual, also provided an offer that was very, very competitive that we could pair up with the MoPerm offer. In doing that, it made MoPerm and MEM almost the same premium as Travelers was. However, we still had that excess problem. We did use, though, the quotes from MoPerm and MEM to get Travelers to reduce their rates somewhat, and I'll get into that more once we get into the premium summary. Any questions so far? We're Insurance 101 here. Okay.
You should never ask if there are any questions.
I'm that nerd, though, the insurance nerd nobody wants to sit next to in the plane or at a party. I will talk to you about it all night long.
I'm the guy no one wants to sit next to, but it's for other reasons. But anyway, so 2 questions. One is, it seems to me if you've got only one respondent on the property and inland marine insurance, that is not optimal, to say the least. My question really is there a point at which you do that as a self-insured kind of deal?
Not on property, not with your limits. And when you'll look at the premium comparison for the property, Chubb, at first glance and working through the renewal expectations with Chubb, they were going to offer a rate increase of about 3 to 5%, which honestly is not too bad with what we're seeing. But because of their, again, we'll call it situation with their boiler inspector, they offered a flat rate.
Okay.
So at this time, we don't want to rock the boat.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
With that.
I just always get nervous if you've got only one person in the game, then pretty
Now,
soon they run the game. So
with those carriers that I went to on the property, a couple of them did decline because they said they can't compete.
Okay.
So we will see that. I've seen it both on the property side and then on the casualty side.
Okay.
No, because we have to share where we are
Yeah.
with the carriers.
Sure.
So we had declinations as well on both submissions, that they just can't compete
Gotcha.
with what you've got.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
The other question is part of the issue as to why we see some leaving the area or leaving the state an issue that is resolved through tort reform in the state of Missouri, or does that have nothing to do with that?
You know, with Liberty, and I hate to say anything bad about an insurance company, but Liberty Mutual has been bought and sold. They've consolidated companies. They changed their mind a lot. My personal opinion is they wrote some accounts they shouldn't have, or too cheaply, and they had some claims, and it ate their lunch.
I gotcha.
So they backed off.
So, but there are no others who may be involved in other states that could be in Missouri. I guess I'm trying to understand what the market looks like overall, and if there are other market players that could be coming in to the state to offer to compete for our business, but they're not
Because of the situation in the state of Missouri.
Right.
I'm not aware of any of that.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
aware of any of that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You bet. On our premium summary page, you're going to see a new column this year. I know your premiums are important, but in my opinion, you have to look at the changes in exposure along with the change in premium. So I've added a column that haven't been in your past presentations, which I think will paint a better picture as to how your premiums ended up the way that they are. Again, on your commercial property, limits are the same, rate is the same. Due to rounding and surcharges on taxes and terrorism, the premium at renewal ended up just slightly less. Okay. On your inland marine and equipment, the premium is up just a smidge, but the rate is flat. The reason the equipment is up, you take stuff off, you put it on, the values change a little bit. So that's why there's just a small little difference in your inland marine and equipment premium. So your Chubb total, it's basically slightly less, which we're going to call it flat. And even more important, in my opinion, they did not increase any of your deductibles. Usually, carriers will dabble in that. The last 2-3 years, we've seen them increase deductibles at renewal, and Chubb did not do that. So we were very pleased with the offer that Chubb provided. On your general liability and your employee benefit liability, your exposures increased 1.8%, but your premium only increased 0.5%, which means your rates went down. On the law enforcement liability, your exposures went down 9%, but your premium only went down less than 1%. Reason being, law enforcement liability has had tons of claims activity, a lot going on with that line of coverages, which drives those rates up. Your management public entity liability, your exposures increased 2.4%. Premium went down 8%, meaning the rates went down significantly. Employment practices, your exposures went up 18.8%. Premium only increased 14.3%. Again, another reduction in rate. With your auto, which your auto is a little different, and I'll explain this, it appears that it went up significantly, but there is some reasoning behind that. Your auto is what's called on a composite rate. Every renewal, we declare our autos. During the policy term, if there are any changes, whether they be additions or deletions, we don't endorse the policy. The premium stays the same the whole year long. At the end of the 12-month policy term, we do an audit and we true it up. But you all added 17 power units, 2 trailers, and your physical damage limit that we rate comp and collision off of increased 9.4%. That was not included in the 25 premium you see there of $423,000. So our renewal premium has increased because of these additional units and limit. But the other issue we had with our auto is our loss ratio is 66%. And remember earlier we discussed the 50-55% is when they're breaking even on you. So the rates did go up. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about that. So the auto premium that is up considering all these factors, 21%. On your work comp, your payroll is up 5.4%. Your premium is down 4.1%, which says their rating on your work comp is in the positive for you. Then on your umbrella, there is a 13.7% increase. Your umbrella premium is rated off of your underlying premium. So with the increase in our auto and increase in number of autos, that's the majority of the hit that you received on your umbrella. So travelers, looking at the overall travelers, is a premium increase of 3.4%. The initial indication from travelers was a 10% increase. But due to receiving one additional option, we were able to get them to sharpen their pencil and get those rates down a bit. On your crime, which it's not stated here, you folks did have a crime claim payment year or two ago. This coverage is also with travelers, but it's through a different department, so I list it separately. Even with the claim, we're considering that flat. It's just a minimal increase in premium. And then on the cyber, the premium this year for the 2026 term would have been flat if it was a Me Too quote. However, the carrier agreed to increase our cyber crime limit from $250,000 to $500,000 for less than $2,500. So the increase in premium is due to additional limit on our cyber crime. So the overall increase the county is looking at is 2.74%. Any questions? I'd now like to just take a minute to talk about some of the programs, processes that you all have or will have in place and how it affects your premium and the ability for us to negotiate your pricing and underwriting. First, though, I want to start with your staff, the cooperation, the prompt response, the proactive culture. These folks are amazing. At renewal, we always have to ask for updated schedules, updated information. It goes around to every department. These people have to work diligently to give us the right information so we can accurately price your account. This year, because we went to market, there were additional supplemental applications that had to be completed. The MoPerm General Liability Supplemental Application was 14 pages long, and there were probably a dozen attachments that had to be given along with that application. Your folks did it, they did it timely, they did it professionally, and due to those efforts, we were able to negotiate better premiums for the county, so kudos to them. Timely reporting of claims, it's a proven fact. The quicker you get those reported and contact that claimant, the faster those claims get settled in at lower amounts, and your staff does a fabulous job with that. Here's our Aviv AEDs. We heard how wonderful they were, how they saved a life. They also assist in making your account more attractive to an insurance carrier. Your stuff, having a safety coordinator dedicated to each department, that's huge. The insurance companies love that. Your work comp accident-free program, you can see it's working. You've seen what your losses have done and how they are declining. Next year, you're going to have a much better credit or experience mod. It may not be a credit, but it's going in the right direction. Your emphasis on, excuse me, cybersecurity, your October Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We see cyber claims activity increasing day after day after day. It's awesome that you guys are being proactive on that. Your lunch and learns. You guys are doing all of the right thing. Your staff is very dedicated. It's obvious to me. It's obvious to the insurance carrier, and it's beneficial at the end of the day. So with that, any questions?
Questions or comments? I was just waiting. Commissioner Wagner.
Nothing beyond what you've presented, and I appreciate Heidi what you've put here. I'll just give a shout out to Christine. Nice job.
She
Nice job.
rocks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Commissioner Withington.
Say you lost me at the very beginning. Can we start the whole thing over again? No, just kidding. No, I just want to say, Christine, every year I say the same thing. It's like your time to shine, this is like your Super Bowl. So thank you for everything you do and appreciate your work on this.
Further comments? Seeing none. We will move on to our next discussion item. Mr. Administrator?
Yes. Before, we've talked about having some of our committees and boards that we provide funding with, but that we have up under the county to come and do presentations. And this evening, we have Children's Services Funds Board doing a presentation. We have Kathy Silbach and Ken Hozak, which is a board member, but Kathy is Executive Director, is here to do a presentation regarding Children's Services Board.
Thank you, Commission. It's a little hard to follow saving lives and then lower insurance prices, but we'll see, or reasonable insurance prices, we'll see what we do. I'm Ken Honick. I have had the pleasure of serving on the board. We're starting our 9th year now, so I think there are 4 of us who are still there from the beginnings. Kathy Seelbach runs the show, so I get to talk because she's not eager to do that, but she keeps us going on a daily basis. Very similar to what I presented to you all last year. We have not changed our general approach. We have, from the very beginning, thought that the best way to take care of the taxpayer dollars that have been entrusted to us was to go to the market and the providers and see what they said the needs were. So each year we get considerably more requests in terms of dollars than there are dollars there, despite the fact that the quarter-cent sales tax from the taxpayers is very generous. We may cross $13 million this year. We were between 12.5 and 13 last year. And generally, as you would expect with the sales tax, that increases with the rate of inflation. Not perfectly, but it pretty close to that. So what we have done is we have split it up. We do part of the funding through the school districts, not for educational services, but our thinking, and this is actually how we got money out in the first place. So we, comparing to our neighbors, the Clay County Children's Services Fund was able to get services out before the Jackson County Fund, despite the fact that we opened for business a year later. We went through the schools to help identify who those were, and we actually got money out that first year by doing that before actually Kathy was even hired. And then we also have money that goes out in the terms of grants directly to service providers. And some of those service providers will also be engaged by the school districts. So they can reach a couple of times. The 2 largest in terms of dollars, just so you know, would be Synergy and Beacon Health. Some think of that as the old Tri-County, if you will. Those would be the 2 that touch it the most. Kathy and her crew have done a wonderful job. When we talk about overhead, the overhead expense is right around 3.5%. And that is by far, well, to be fair, it's probably 18 months since I saw the numbers of the other children's funds in the state, but I mean, it was by far the lowest overhead. Some of that is that we frankly provide grants, larger grants to fewer services, and then we do follow that up with annual service audits, because we obviously want to make sure that, well, 2 things. One, that obviously that the grants are going to the purpose that the service provider said that they were, which are generally speaking mental health, and there are some transitional housing in that for very short periods of time and some treatment and prevention programs, so statutorily that they're going to what they said they would do, and then also that everything is within statute. So everybody who has the service grants, they are audited each year as well. This year, for instance, we have almost 8 million, 7.98 million of grants that are awarded through the school districts. Most of that money will then go down to service providers. And we had $6 million that was awarded directly to the service providers. We are close to equilibrium, and what I mean by that is during COVID, through no fault of their own, and I will say this, is, you know, what you guys know about the Northland, our school districts cooperate really well. They stay independent, but the cooperation is wonderful. What I have learned in my role on the board of the Clay County Children's Services Fund is that our service providers have wonderful cooperation as well. And they were not able to provide all the services that had been awarded, the funding had been awarded during COVID, because two things, it was hard to hire, and it was also harder to have that face-to-face contact with people. So what happened was the taxes obviously continued to come in, and we saw balances beginning to grow. That is absolutely not our mission. Our mission is to make sure that funds are provided, or that services are provided to children. So we were very transparent with the providers, and we have good attendance. Every meeting we have is going to have somewhere in a slow time, maybe 20 folks attending between in person and online. And then when it's getting closer to funding season, we could have 50, 60, 70 people attending. We were very transparent that for a couple of years, we're going to increase the funding. It's not the new level, but we wanted to get money out onto the streets. And we're now down to a point where the funds going out roughly equal the funds coming in. So we've kind of caught up with that. There were a few folks who were disappointed that either didn't want to hear or didn't hear that the funding would eventually come back down to the inflow. But like I say, through no fault of any of the providers, it was hard for them to get the services out there. So really the main things that I want the commissioners to understand really is that we do take an approach that we do want the service providers to let us know what services they think are needed, because they're the ones out there, with the children. And then we do take the approach because we do want to be great stewards of tax dollars. It is not, we've got at least we have 4 members of the board here today. It is not a privilege that we take lightly to get to help to determine how these funds are spent. We want a low overhead, and the way to do that really is to have larger amounts provided to fewer providers, because of all the there's a certain level that a provider is a provider is a provider. It takes a certain amount of time to maintain that relationship. Obviously not a one-to-one, but there's some truth to that. So anyway, that is what I have. We are appreciative, very much so, of the trust that you have put in us, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you all may have.
Thank you very much for the service that you and your board do, and your staff as well, of course. This is the sort of thing that is obviously something that the people wanted, and it's something we've delivered on, and it also is delivering services to people who very much need them. It's not a particularly glamorous board. It's one that is... a
glamorous board wouldn't have any of us, but I understood.
But the thing is, it's a hard-working board, and I think that's something that we need to be able to see. And I'm hoping to bring, additional boards that are in similar categories yourselves, that is to say, put together funding for different organizations that come from the taxpayers. So this is really, you're kind of the alpha version of this, of how we want to be going forward, and that is to hear what it is you do and what it is, how it is you are serving the people of this county. So with that, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, and thanks for being here tonight. Sure. To you board members, thanks for your service and being here tonight with us. I don't know if I just missed a presentation or handouts, so I had to have something in front of me. So I went to the website, and,
okay.
And I appreciate, as you look at who you funded, for those who are interested in such things, you break it down pretty well, and you go on there and you can see what money has been given to organizations and for what and why. as well as the application process. And it's really an in-the-weeds question on the application process that caught my eye, so forgive me for going in the minutia. And if you don't want to take the answer to this question, you want to defer to staff, that's totally fine. But I noticed that on the funding priorities, it lists various outpatient services that this will cover, whether it is outpatient chemical dependency, psychiatric treatment, and so on and so forth. But I noticed on the funding restrictions, you do not cover inpatient on those categories. And I'm sure there's a great reason for it, but it caught my eye, so I have to ask why the difference?
That is primarily, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong here, that is primarily in keeping with statute, is it not?
Is that a statutory issue?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's,
okay. I love blaming the state. I blame them for every, no, I'm kidding.
I'm pulling up my dog-eared, the statute, I'm pulling up my
Yeah, no, that's
Department of
great.
Dog Ears statutes, and yeah, it is specifically outpatient.
Interesting.
That would fund. The closest thing we would come, well, it's not even inpatient. There are certain things we can do preventive-wise to groups, with groups.
Sure, yeah.
But that's why I wish, no one cares, it doesn't matter, but I wish that the statute looked more like the ballot language, because the ballot language was broader, but it wasn't, and this board diligently follows the statute.
Well, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That avoids a lot of problems. And I could probably ask, and maybe I'll ask after all this is over, what the logic was at the time for that, but I'll save that for another time. But I appreciate you, I appreciate the answer. Thank you very much. And thanks for all you guys do. Sure.
Commissioner Carpenter. Oop, there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank Ken and everybody on the board, and Kathy too, of course.
She does the work. She
Yeah, no,
absolutely does the
absolutely.
work.
Well, I am very fortunate to be married to someone who works in the nonprofit space, and so and she's working really hard right now, actually, still at work right now. I just want to agree with Commissioner Nolte. I think this is a good thing to do, to have our folks come in and have some more frequent and sort of standardly scheduled interactions. So I agree with that. Mostly just want to say thanks to each of you. I think the members of this board have heard me, and this isn't your fault at all, but we got our sales taxes here in this county and in this region are too darn high. And we've got too many sales taxes, but that's not your fault. That's just, they've all accumulated over time.
Understood.
And
We also pay all those sales taxes, so I
yeah,
understand.
exactly, right. And you go to some areas where it's 12 and 13%, which is awfully high. But that being said, it's on, this one's on the books, and a lot of good work is being done with it, and appreciate the board and Kathy for all that good work.
I appreciate that, and I guarantee our board appreciates that.
Thanks.
Any other commissioners wishing to comment or ask questions? Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. Thank you, all of you, and even the ones who aren't here, for the work you do on the board. I've actually put in a resolution to double your salary. For the board
I
for this
think you
next
to
year,
triple
so
it and still make good use of
we'll
county
triple it.
funds.
Pick a number. But no, for those who don't know, they volunteer their time for this, and we appreciate that. And it's hard to get people to volunteer for a lot of these boards. This board, to me, is probably one of the most important because of the amount of money that you handle. It's probably the most expensive, or the biggest budget as far as the different boards. You mentioned about 13 million.
Yep.
I had some questions. I'm on the website as well about the way the money is spent, just trying to understand things. So it sounds like you give a larger portion of the money to the school districts. I want to say about, was it 8 million?
That is true. It's almost 8 million and about 6 million to service providers. Let me give you a number of that school district money then passes on to the service providers. The thinking being that the school districts see the kids each day and cover the whole county. Granted, they're obviously homeschooled, there's some private schools, but that was the logic behind the path. So I'm looking in the most current year, for instance, almost, I want to make sure I'm not misstating this, I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Yeah, almost $7 million of that, well, a little over, about almost $7.5 million of that $8 million was then passed through to either Synergy or Beacon. So, it does go through the school districts, but most of it then passes on through providers that they either have in the schools or for some of the one-on-one at some of the higher need students, the ones that are go home generally to a home life that none of us would want to go home to. There will be some one-on-one services with that, what you would think of as kind of typical one-on-one mental health services that comes through the school, but the schools don't actually do the counseling. They typically pass that through to Beacon and also
So
to...
why do you do it that way? Why does it go to the schools and the schools to pass out? Why don't they just come directly to you and you guys pass it out?
Sure, that's a great question. We pass out part of it, obviously, but because the schools are with the students every day, they're in and I believe, I can't speak for our service providers, but I feel pretty comfortable that they would agree that the schools are in a very good position to help to identify who may need those services. So that is why they're with the kids all day.
And are you guys comfortable and confident that the money that's going to the schools, and not that I'm questioning the schools, but trust but verify, that those monies are going directly to those children's services that they're supposed to be going to?
I am, because of what we see both from the pass-through and then also the relationships we have with the schools, because they're tired of hearing us say this can't be anywhere close to instructional or anything else. I am comfortable. We have a good relationship with the schools, and then the best proof that's in the pudding would be, the amount of it that then is passed through to service providers. It's not just Beacon and Synergy, but those are the two biggest ones. But yeah, I am comfortable, and I am particularly comfortable that the schools are in the best position to identify not only those in need, but to help with some of the programs that can, impact all of the students.
Do you know, are there any administrative fees that we have to pay to pass that through the schools?
I am not, there are no administrative fees from our end. I'm not aware of the schools having any administrative fees, Kathy, that are paid. That I'm not aware of any extra monies that are created between the schools and the service providers because of this pass-through. But I don't know is my real answer, but I don't think that there are.
Okay, good. Because, like in some grants, you get a grant, but, you get the administrative fees, they take 25% of your grant.
Yeah.
But that's not the situation.
We're not having any of that I can tell you.
And the other question, I see Synergy, you've given, I think it was $1 million to Synergy.
At least, yes. On this most recent.
But then I see the public schools, I'm looking at like Liberty right now, and then they pass through money to Synergy as well. And then I know several of our other boards, almost all of our other boards are also given to Synergy. Our Children's Services Board, you guys are, Domestic Violence Board, our Mental Health Board, they get like another $3 million plus for mental health, even some from Safe Haven and our Office of Dispute Resolution. How do I say this? Are we being fair in the different entities that are getting our funding? No, is Synergy or anybody else for that matter? I'm not picking on Synergy, but anybody else for that matter getting more than their share, and we're telling other people no?
That's a great question. It's a conversation we have each year. My answer is yes. I think we're being fair. Let me answer the question and then do more than go into more detail. So each year, the awards with the service providers are just on a year-to-year basis, and we spend a lot of time in the spring going over those awards. And this year, quite frankly, Synergy was disappointed because they asked for at least $1 million more that the board said no to. And that's because you have as much money as you have. It's a generous pool, but it's it's a finite pool. But yeah, we are fortunate. I will tell you this, we have not gotten I guess we've had 8 cycles now. We're in our 9th year. We've had 8 cycles of grant requests. We have yet to have a single grant request come in that we looked at and said, what in the world? The worst one might have been, and it wasn't bad, it doesn't fit at all, but it was to come up with a modest amount of gift cards for kids in need. It doesn't really fit the statute, but I get what's behind it. Part of why we made sure that a not-for-profit had to have been in business at least 5 years is we wanted to avoid horror stories that we would heard that, all of a sudden someone's cousin or brother-in-law has a not-for-profit, right? I do feel comfortable that we have made the right decisions. In that context, there were other folks that we turned down that I'm sure would provide a good service. But from a fair share standpoint, in terms of personnel and staff and coverage of the county, Synergy and Beacon really do stand above the others, and that's why they get the most. And I will say this also, that the school districts, when they report to us, and each month at our meetings, which are the third Wednesday of each month, if anyone wants to ever attend, either a school district or a service provider, or from a timing standpoint, heaven help both, will present what they're doing, and the schools report really good results from both Beacon and Synergy. So yeah, I do feel comfortable. Yes, those two get a lot, but they are also the two biggest players. And I will say, on the behalf of Synergy, I am not speaking out of school to say that they were disappointed in the board last year because we did not approve as much as they wanted.
Yeah. Okay, two more questions real quick. They should be easy ones. One is, answer the complaint that I've heard from some constituents that our Children's Services Board gives most of their money to mental health issues and not to other folks.
I think that's true, and I think that's consistent with the statute. See, I think most of what we do, and let me look at the numbers, double check, but I believe it is mostly to mental health kind of things, and some of that is prevention and what have you, right? Some of that is programs, but that is consistent with the statute as far as where we've been asked to direct.
Maybe you can explain that a little bit then to the public. What do you mean by that's consistent with the statute? What if a group says, hey, we feed homeless teens and children? Why can't
This is why my wife and I contribute to Feed Northland Neighborhoods, or Feed Northland Kids, I'm sorry. Because according to the statute, the three things we can do are temporary shelter for up to 30 days, and then psychiatric treatments, counseling, traditional program, home-based, community-based types of, and that's for the mental health bucket. And the third would be individual, group, family, professional counseling, therapy sessions. So we really are limited to those three things. Okay. There is a way to read the statute maybe a little more generously, and there are things, I tell you, if the statute was more clear, if we didn't have as many providers that fit directly into the statute, I would love for organizations like Feed Northland Kids and Level Up Kids, which does a wonderful job providing eye care and dental care to kids who wouldn't get it otherwise. Right. And this kind of goes back to my earlier statement. I wish this was more like what the ballot language was, but that would be why. We have more than enough requests, good requests for funds that fit directly into those three pieces of the statute, which would be why if someone were to tell me, why are you doing so much on mental health? One, our providers tell us that's the need, to go back to that. But two, for, I think, wonderful things like, and again, there are others that do it, but Feed Northland Kids, Level Up Kids, absolutely wonderful, but they don't fit in the statute particularly well.
Okay, good answer. Okay. And then the last question I have, are you confident and comfortable that the roughly $13 million that you guys are responsible for, that's being used, those tax dollars are being used as efficiently as possible, and that you think that it's actually making a difference?
Two things. I do think, is it as efficiently as possible? I don't know you ever get that. I think it's very efficient, yes, and I'm a banker, an old auditor. I like numbers. I was not actually bored with insurance talk. So I do think it's very efficient. I look back to the fact that our overhead, 3.5%, is so much less than our brother and sister counties. The fact that we have service providers that are audited every year, I feel really good about that. That helps to keep that honest. Yeah, I do feel very good, and I don't take, and none of them no one on the board takes it lightly, but I will tell you, I do not take this lightly because, like Commissioner Carpenter, I don't always understand why, I'm paying more than 10% sales tax, right? So as someone who has that position, when there is a sales tax, it becomes very precious. My kids are adults now. My wife and I, who's here tonight, by the way, we're blessed that our kids probably would not have needed a lot of these services. But man, for the kids who need these services, sometimes it is their lifeline. Yeah. It is their lifeline. So I am comfortable, and I'm sorry, there's a second half of, it wasn't just that that they're being used well. There's a second half to your question that has escaped me now.
Yeah, it was about efficiently and about, do you feel that the county, it's made an impact on the children
I do.
In our county?
I really do, and my main basis for that is, our interactions with the providers and the school districts, and I do understand they have an incentive to be nice to us because we fund. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But even through that, some of the data that they present to us, I really do think that it makes a good, healthy impact. And again, it really is, to say I'm not a bleeding heart would be an understatement, but it really is hitting the kids who need it the most, who need the most structure, and they don't all get it. We have some service providers report to us that in some cases where they've been recommended for more individual counseling that is critical. A couple of them, or a couple school districts had told us a couple of years ago that as many as 70% of those families just said no. So here are free services that are being offered. Those numbers seem to have come down some, but I would not keep accepting, because as you point out, it's a well-compensated board. I wouldn't want to stay on this board if I didn't think we were making a difference.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you answering those questions. I really appreciate the work that you and the rest of the board does, and thank you for being here tonight. I sincerely do appreciate that.
Commissioner Lawson.
I'm very, very surprised that the money is being given to school districts. We just went through trying to help the seniors, and the school districts went insane that they were going to lose, too much money. When I look at my tax statement that I just recently got back, almost all of my money went to the school district. Sometimes I feel as though we all have to learn to live within our budgets, and some entities don't do that very well. I really admire what y'all do. I do. I think that is a group of extremely dedicated people to the kids of this county. But, I would feel more comfortable if the schools came to you and said, these are the 3 things that we're trying to work on right now, and this is the money we need to get that done. And then you allocate those funds to them because you're seeing exactly,
And that is part of the process, actually. I may not have been as clear on that as I should have been. So just as the service providers come to us and say, here are the needs that we see, the schools also do that. And so they go through basically the same process. We have a binder that's we have big binders to read to go through that. But the schools actually do that as well, because that is part of the board's approach that we want providers to tell us that. And I understand, like you, I'm a taxpayer, and I understand that a lot goes to the schools. I will say this, for reasons I stated earlier, that the schools are with the students and they see them every day. There is no way we could take as good a care of the tax dollars of the citizens of this county if the schools did not provide the tremendous service of kind of filtering and vetting of who may need service. And again, at the end of the day, it ends up with the service providers doing most of it. And I hear you on the tax burden. I get that. But we as a board, I firmly believe, would not make as good a use of the tax dollars of the people of Clay County if the schools were not in the role that they were in. And we are careful to make sure that it doesn't go, it's not going to any kind of instruction or anything like that. So I do get your point that they're getting a lot of money every December 31st. I get that. Oddly, I get that, but a hill I will die on is that we would not take as good of care of these funds. We would not have a 3.5% overhead rate if we took the schools out of that mix.
Good. Okay, I do appreciate that, and I'm glad that that's the way you do it.
Okay.
Because just handing them money, for whatever services it might be, and not having some kind of a breakdown to know exactly how that money was allocated, I don't know that I'd always trust some third party to do that properly.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
You're doing it in good faith.
Yeah.
You're feeling that you're giving to the proper whoever needs it, and then we just want to make sure that it continues on.
I appreciate the question. It's a great question. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know, we really appreciate you coming. And I would like very much, you know, on maybe a yearly basis to see like a financial statement breakdown.
I tell you what we can do. We can absolutely, Kathy would be happy to send that to you.
Oh, great.
And we came in this year with kind of the same presentation as last year, and then as soon as I saw the insurance going up on the board, I'm like, we're not doing that. Kathy will, next year, we can play along on the screen, but Kathy will send the information on to you.
Oh, good.
Okay?
Okay.
Your financials?
Oh, Kathy, yeah, come on up to the podium so we can all hear you.
Sorry. Hello, Kathy Silbatch. The financial statements that you were requesting are in the impact report that you were sent every year from us.
Oh, okay, great, great.
So
Awesome.
it is in there, but I am happy to provide a more thorough breakdown. And I will say, as far as the services, not all being mental health, we do have 3 major categories. One is mental health, one is prevention, and one is intervention.
Okay, good, good.
She says it much better than I do when I'm looking at the statute. At least we both agree on the number 3, and believe it or not, we were saying the same thing, but she does it better.
Yeah,
The other thing that we
appreciate all of
do is in those proposals and applications from both the districts and our community-based providers, we insist that they use evidence-based products. Because if we're going to provide money and funding for them, we want to make sure that what they're going to do with it works. And we have evidence of that, in that we have a cohort of kids that came in kindergarten and have been with us, and they are now in 6th grade, and the 6th grade teachers are like, what is this? Because they are so dramatically different than their typical 6th grade class. So it's working. Other questions?
Thank you for mentioning that, because I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned it. I wouldn't have said it nearly as well either, but there are documentation. There's documentation that's sent to the county, and we have a lot of that. So I believe it resides with the clerk's office. Is that correct?
Sure.
I'm not sure who the custodian of those particular records are right off the top of my head. Mr. Administrator, do you know?
Are you talking about, as for the document, it goes to our auditor's office?
Okay.
And to myself.
Our impact reports are on our website, as is the statute that you can link and find. We try to put as much on there as we can to educate the public of what we are doing. The presentations that our districts and our providers do at each meeting are also on the website. You can link into their account and see every presentation, a description of what their program is. So.
Thank you. Does that cover your questions? Commissioner Johnson, I believe you had a follow-up?
Yeah, no, I just want to underscore what you just said, and I know Commissioner Wagner alluded to it, and that is your website. It has a lot of information. I want to make sure our 3 listeners at home that are listening tonight, that there's a website, Clay County, just go to the Clay County Children's Services Fund, type that in there, and you'll find it. But that website has a lot of information of where your tax dollars are going. It's very informative.
Thank you.
We try to be transparent, I will say
That's a good
that.
job, good job.
Thank you. It appears we have no further questions. One of the things that, as I say, this is you're kind of the first one out of the chute. We want to make sure that we bring in some of the other boards and commissions that have similar missions. One of the things that occurs to me is, and I think many of us would not fall into the let's just hand out money willy-nilly kind of a mindset. But we have boards that do seniors, and we have the Disabilities Board, the DDRB. The point I think I would like to underscore on that is, it is, I think, our responsibility to take care of people who are in a situation that is through no fault of their own. Nobody volunteers to be a child, although my wife would disagree in my case. Nobody volunteers to be old, although, you know, the alternative is not very appetizing. And of course, nobody signs up to have a disability. So those are individuals within our community who are in a situation of need through no fault of their own. And I think it is incumbent on us to reach out to those people. We need to make sure that when we do that, we do it in a compassionate, humane way, but also in a fiscally responsible way. And I think you folks are doing a great job. Before we close out, would you please introduce any of the board members that are here so we can all see them?
Absolutely. Ed Kohlenberg is our most recent board member who's here today. John McGovern is one of the original, and he's a former police chief, so don't mess with him. And Pastor Bob Francine is here. He is our vice chair. John's I should have said, is our secretary. And Bob has also been on since the beginning. And Bob, he is the one, well, Kathy does a whole lot of the, you're right here, does a whole lot of lifting. But Bob is the one who organizes those and cracks the whip and makes sure that we're ready to go through all the programs. So he, as vice chair, he oversees the programs committee. And we have great participation at that, but he puts in a whole lot of work on that programs committee. So, anyway.
Well, I want to thank you also, because I've come down and talked to you about this on a couple of occasions, and I appreciate the information that you impart.
Good.
With that, we will go ahead and conclude this discussion item, unless there's anything else. There seems to not be, so we will move on to the next. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for being here and for the great work that you do. You're greatly appreciated. That brings us to our consent agenda. Mr. Administrator?
Yes, good evening. Tonight we have 3 items on our consent agenda. The first one is 2026-50, approval of invoice payments for Clay County for the period of February 14th to February 20th. We had 237 invoices totaling $1,284,457.01. Our next one is 2026-49, is appointment of Daryl, I know I was going to mess that up, Mikey, as our county health officer. He's also our director of public health for Clay County. And our next one is the 2026-55 approval of cooperative purchase agreement with Bosch camera server base and license with Kent Brothers. It's a system that we utilize in our detention center. Thus far, we've been used as a temporary license, so now we want to move forward to a permanent license with the Kent Brothers. And those are the 3 items on our consent agenda.
Great. And by the way, thank you for being here, Darrell. Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's consent agenda. Discussion. Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us to this evening's regular agenda. There are 2 items, the first one being 2026-51. Mr. Administrator?
Yes, 2026-51 is approval of invoice payments for Clay County Prosecutor's Office for the period of February 14th to February 20th. We have a total of 7 invoices, totaling $2,018.63.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve 2026-51.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2026-51. Discussion. Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Thompson?
I recuse myself.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Motion passes 5 in favor, 1 recusal.
Brings us to our second and last regular agenda item. That would be 2026-53. Mr. Administrator?
Yes, 2026-53 is well water as the sole water supply. We have our Director of Planning and Zoning, Kip Jones, to provide you more information regarding that one.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning Director. So I just have one case for you tonight. It is a request to allow well water as the primary source of water for a residential home. So I've got the property outlined in yellow. It's roughly 77 acres. The proposal is to have a roughly 6-acre lot be divided from that 77 acres. That is where the proposed location of the house would be. The property is currently zoned agricultural and has access off of In Highway. And there is an administrative case that goes along with the well water request. Since it is just one lot that meets all our requirements, that is a case that staff can approve pending the approval of the well water request. And this is an area of the county that does not have a water district. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute. As part of that administrative case, Planning and Zoning reached out to the city of Excelsior Springs, which I'll show you how close that is to the subject property here in a minute. So again, that request is to allow well water for residential use. That comes from section 151-8.9 of the Land Development Code, which states that all proposed development has to be connected to an enclosed water supply system. There is one exception. It has to be granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission and County Commission only under unusual circumstances. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-2 to approve this request. Staff's recommendation from the start has been to annex into the city of Excelsior Springs because the applicant can hook on to the city water supply if they annex into the city. So here is the area. That is the subject property right there. You can see anything that does not have color to the north is city of Excelsior Springs. Ray County to the east. This is a largely agricultural area just south of Excelsior Springs. And the Excelsior water line does run along In Highway in front of this property. I would be happy to answer any questions commissioners have. The applicant, Michael Prudeau, is present and would like to speak. And then I believe Mallory Brown with the city of Excelsior Springs would also like to say some words.
We'll go ahead and address any questions to you that are there, and then we would like, if the applicant so chooses, to come forward. Obviously, it's not required, but certainly we always are happy to hear from the applicant. Commissioner Withington?
So how is this going to affect future annexation?
So for the county, with our comprehensive plan, we reach out to every city for projects that are within a mile of the city. In this case, we did that with Excelsior, and Mallory can speak more into detail how it'll affect the development of the city. But the comments we received were in the transmittal that we sent to the commission. Basically, they did not oppose the proposal, but said it possibly could affect development, and I think that would be a better question answered by the city.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. So yeah, maybe they can answer that question for us. Hopefully they can answer that. And how close is this property to where the water line stops?
It's my understanding the water line runs on the frontage of this property, so all they would have to do is tap into that existing line. They don't have to extend it.
But that's only for, so Excelsior has ran water in front of the property, but they won't let them tap into it without being annexed into the city?
Correct. So actually, if you see here, there is an existing house on the property. That house is hooked up to the city water. The city, Mallory can tell you the date, but the city adopted a new ordinance that does not allow the city to provide water currently unless the property is annexed in.
And I know that it said that the resident had, or the property owner had looked at the annexation and decided not to. Why did they, maybe they can answer that. I guess I'm asking questions in advance, but.
I think Mr. Prudeau will speak to that.
Okay. And I know they said it was cost prohibitive. Did Excelsior give them a bill or an estimate on how much this was going to cost to tap in?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, obviously with the well water, they'd have the cost of drilling the well, but I don't know how that compares to the city.
And so planning and zoning's recommendation, they were fine with allowing the well?
They voted 5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay. Well, unless somebody gives me a reason not to, I'm in favor, but I figure if they own the property, they can do whatever they want on their property. It's not going to bother me one bit. I was just curious what Excelsior's justification on how this would maybe hinder future annexation. So hopefully they can answer that for us in a few minutes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, thank you. Kip, can you go back a couple slides? The one that had I think you had a legal section posted on there. It was that one there. Okay, section 151-8.9 requires all proposed development to be connected to an enclosed water supply system. What does that have to do with this? I'm missing something here.
The development is the new single-family home. So that section requires that home be hooked up to an enclosed water supply. A well would not be considered an enclosed water supply system.
So proposed development, so I'm thinking proposed development, I'm thinking like a housing tract or something. That's not, it's just a house.
Development by the Land Development Code standards is basically any man-made change.
So any house.
Yes.
So a guy wants to go out and buy 50 acres and put his house on it. This says you can't get your own water for that house off your own land.
You cannot be approved for a well unless the Planning and Zoning Commission and County Commission approve it, yes.
And what would be the downside of why do we have such a law? It's got to protect something. What does that protect?
Yeah, so the main reason, in my opinion, is safety, because you're hooked up to enclosed water that is tested and made sure it is safe, where a well, once you do your, we put a condition that says that they have to do their initial testing on it, but after that, as far as I am aware, there's no required testing and you don't know if that water's safe. In addition, now it doesn't apply to this case, if, and let me go back to so that's the property there. If that water line wasn't already run in front of this property and somebody wanted to develop down here and he was approved for a well and didn't extend that water main, then these folks down here would be responsible for extending that water main in front of their property. So it prohibits, or it doesn't prohibit, but it makes development costlier for folks down the line. Now, again, that doesn't really apply to this case, but that's one of the reasons to have it be special circumstances.
So, but the way I read that, okay, if the guy on that first property there, close to the water line, if he wants a well, he gets a well. If the guy on the second lot, if he wants a well, he can have a well, or if he wants to pay the expense to go all the way to the main line, that's on him, but it's a choice he has, right? I guess what I'm getting at, and you know me, I say this all the time, I'm not a big fan of government overreach. And if this is your property and you got water in there and you want to drink that water, to me, I don't care how lousy that water is. If you want to drink it, that's on you. Even if we have requirements that says, hey, it has to test clean at first, but I guarantee there's probably a lot of us that are drinking water that isn't the best water.
And I think part of what we're trying to do is not only plan for now, but plan for, these folks aren't going to own this house forever. We have to plan for future owners and plan for that development, because if that water main doesn't get extended, that development's not going to happen. So we wouldn't get, Excelsior wouldn't be able to subdivide and put in interior street subdivisions in a costly or efficient manner if we just allow well water on any property.
Sure, I just don't think that the onus is on that particular landowner to make sure that gets, that pipe gets extended across the front of his property if he doesn't want to. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I don't like government overreach. I think it's his property. If he wants to put a well in it, put a well in it, for all I care. It's your property. That's all I got.
Commissioner Lawson.
A couple of things that really bothered me when they came before Planning and Zoning was, number one, as you said, this is their land. They bought it to live out in the country. They don't want to be a part of the city. And I felt as though they were being forced to be a part of Excelsior Springs, and that just helps the city to get their water line out there a little bit further, and they've got another person on it, and helps further development at this gentleman's expense. So, I will say, it's probably been 30 years ago, my sister looked at land out there, and there was no water at the time, and she didn't want a well. So she abandoned that area and went on. Now, 30 years ago, they're talking about annexing. They were fairly close that long ago, and they did nothing about it. So this gentleman buys his land out of the city. He wants to put a well in. Now, a lot goes with that well, and a responsibility, and he's going kind of the hard way, because wells aren't the easiest thing to deal with sometimes. The pump can freeze, all kinds of things can happen. Things around them can happen that would harm that well as far as the drinkability of the water. But as you say, if this gentleman feels this is the way he prefers to go, then he ought to have every right to do it that way and not have his feet held to the fire to be annexed into the city to get his water. That's blackmail in my book. So I also would say that let him do as he pleases, his land, his money, whatever he wants to do. And obviously the water has checked out, it's good. Excelsior Springs is loaded underneath it with springs and rivers. I could have a huge well if I wanted. There's a river under my land. But I chose to go with the water because it was right there and it wasn't expensive. But that's not the deal with him. So God bless him, let him do what he wants to do.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I'm not sure there's any reason for anyone else to speak on this one, but all kidding aside, just to make sure that it's framed properly in my mind, the issue of extension of water is already dealt with for annexation in the future because the adjoining property, or kind of the master property, if you will, already has a line from Excelsior Springs there. So to your earlier point, not really an issue here because you got a line that already exists that comes out. So I think I got that one correct. Okay. So then the other thing would be because the rules in Excelsior Springs have changed, if this had been done however many years ago, originally on the original property, then that would have been an issue at that time. But because they were in before that rule changed, that's why you got the situation you've got. And so the only way for there to be a water line to come is if essentially the present homeowners decided, I gotta be annexed in order to have that service. So the choice that they have is either I consent, assuming Excelsior Springs even wanted to annex them, which is its own process, or we can allow them to do the things that many a farmer across the country has done and just dug a hole and let the water come out and let it go at that. I don't mean to simplify or make light of it, but essentially that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Have I described that relatively properly?
Correct, yes.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you, Kip, very much. Thank you.
Okay. With that, do you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
If the applicant would like to come forward and give a presentation, kind of let us know what their views are, and then we will have questions for you from the commission if there are any. So introduce yourself, speak into the microphone, and please proceed.
Okay. Hello, I'm Michael Prideaux, and we are very grateful for this opportunity, to talk about this and get permission for this. And really, our goal is simple. We're trying to build a home near my parents so that we can be closer to them and help take care of my father as his health has been declining. Being nearby to them will allow us to support them and help them manage their property. They've got 77 acres there, and my dad likes to ride his tractor around and everything, and we want to be able to help him maintain all of the land. So my parents have generously offered us this 6 acres. It's roughly 6 acres, and the bank has approved this area to be let go from them. And from the beginning, when we were pursuing all this, we wanted to explore, the options, and we initially did pursue annexation and look into doing that because that seemed like the most logical step, but. We were multiple months into the process of trying to figure out what it was going to take, and we had multiple conversations and worked in good faith to understand what would be required. And as the process went on, the amount of land needed for the annexation continued to expand beyond what we have available, as did the shape requirements. We only have access to that 6 acres, basically. It's what my dad was willing to do, as well as the bank was willing to let go. And my father was not willing to annex his entire property, which is something that the city had continuously pushed for and asked. Because of those limitations, we were unable to find a workable solution through annexing, and we were told at various meetings with people with the city that nothing we could come up with would work with the land that we had. There was not enough acreage. They didn't like the shape that we were doing, and as we were pursuing this, more and more time was passing. And I also wanted to address something that was mentioned at the last meeting, which was that choosing a well might appear to be an easier or a cheaper option, and that's not the case, as we have, learned and we've gotten quotes from multiple contractors, and we're being quoted starting at about $30,000 to get a well drilled and hooked up to the home, and we're fine with that. We can make this work, and getting the well is the only thing that is really holding us up from being able to move forward. So it's not a shortcut or a preference for us to be getting the well exactly, but it's simply the only viable path that we have after spending many months of trying to move forward with all this. And at this point, we've worked through the county's processes and the requirements and have been able to get everything handled, except for this. Obviously, we're needing to get this approved. And so really we're only asking to be able to build a home on the small portion of this land so we can be closer to our family and provide support to them, and hopefully continue to allow our family and our children to grow and make use of the land. So yeah, that's what I've got.
Thank you very much. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Any commissioners have any questions of the applicant? Very good. You must have done a great job. There were no questions. So
okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak, or does that cover it?
I don't know that I wish to. Now I think I'm going to waste my breath here. Totally understand. My name is Mallory Brown with the City of Excelsior Springs. First, I'll just start that I thought our conversations with the applicant were very pleasant, went well. I checked earlier today, it was less than a month from the time I first spoke to them and we had a meeting. So the state statute requires that annexation be both compact and contiguous. And the lot that you saw on that presentation was not the lot that was presented to us originally. I would say it was reasonably contiguous. It met the minimum amount of linear feet that has to be contiguous to an incorporated city in order to annex. But it was more of a finger that came out into the property, so that wouldn't be defined as compact when you read the state statute as it is written. And when you look back at case law that annexations have been litigated, thousands of times. So that was the city's comment, was that the lot that was proposed was not compact and was not a standard size. Also, when we first met with the applicant, there was no access on N Highway. MoDOT had been very clear that there was no access. I believe since then, the applicant has worked with MoDOT to determine that there is access, but that was never a conversation had with the city. So we were essentially going to accept an annexed lot, if the council wished to do so, that had no access to a public way, therefore creating a non-conforming situation. We had worked through access easements and things like that, and so I'm sorry if the applicant felt otherwise about the interactions, but I thought they were very fine. So I would also be remiss as a public servant to not, and one that has a public water drinking system in our community. We comply with the Safe Water Drinking Act, and that's very important. So while I completely understand that people move out in unincorporated Clay County to enjoy the pleasures that it offers of country living and well water and those sort of things, I have a duty as a public servant representing a municipality. So I'm going to read something that I prepared. No hard feelings either way. My name is Mallory Brown. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Excelsior Springs. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm here regarding the request for a private well on property where the city water main is already installed along the front right-of-way directly in front of the home. Public water is physically available at the site today. The main is in place, it has capacity, and is ready to serve the property. The city's policy requires annexation for connection to municipal water. That policy ensures that those who benefit from city infrastructure also participate in supporting and maintaining it. This is standard practice across the state of Missouri. We're actually probably one of the only cities that allowed outside connections without annexation anymore, and throughout the region. Approving a private well in this situation would have implications beyond this one single parcel. First, these are not unusual circumstances. Infrastructure does not need to be extended in this case. The only barrier is the applicant's unwillingness to comply with the city's annexation requirement. Second, there are important health considerations. Public water systems are regulated under state and federal law. They require routine testing, monitoring, certified operators of our plants, and compliance with the safe water standards under the Safe Water Drinking Act. Private wells do not have those same ongoing oversights. Water quality becomes solely the responsibility of the property owner, and contamination risks from septic systems, which it's my understanding that there will also be a septic system associated with this, runoff, and naturally occurring contaminants may go undetected. Where regulated public water is readily available, it is generally considered the safer and more reliable long-term option for protecting public health. Third, approving a well where public water is immediately available creates precedent. Other property owners along this same corridor could very reasonably request the same thing. Over time, that leads to fragmented service patterns and undermines coordination in growth areas that are clearly outlined and positioned for future development. This area, as Kip mentioned, is in the managed growth area. In our comprehensive plan, it's also mentioned in the managed growth area. We just had a conversation about a conditional use permit for solar arrays right in this area. There's things happening in this area. Development is going to occur. The city has invested significant public resources in installing and maintaining this infrastructure because, as Kip noted, there is no public water district in this area. We believe approving a well adjacent to this investment works against orderly development, public health protections, and the efficient use of public facilities. We respect the county's authority in this matter. Like I said, no hard feelings. We'll still work together. We are simply asking that the commission consider whether allowing a private well where regulated public water is readily available serves the best long-term interests of the county's residents. The city is prepared to serve the property upon annexation, just as we would any other property, not only through water, but all of the other services that we offer consistent to our annexation policy. I'm happy to answer any other additional questions if you have them.
Are there any questions of this witness? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further comment from the public? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion related to 2026-53. Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve 2026-53.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2026-53. Discussion. Seeing none, you are recognized to, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, did you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Seeing no further discussion is being requested, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington? Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That concludes this evening's regular agenda. Thank you for coming in. Thank you, everyone who participated in the discussion. That brings us to County Administrator comments. Mr. Administrator?
Yes, good evening. A reminder that our next business session is March 5th, but before then, we also have our review commission. The first initial meeting will be March 4th. It'll be here here in our chambers. The other one is our Civic Academy is starting April 1st, still open for applicants. We're looking for room for those who might want to come and learn more about the county. The operations is a 7-week course, a great opportunity for you to learn more about what we do. The other one is that we got notified by the City of Liberty that they'll be starting their construction process with the expansion of their police station. That means the closure of Missouri Street, which will start, action happened today at 5 o'clock. But I think construction will start this coming Monday. So that'd be it for me this evening.
Thank you. That brings us to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Carpenter? Very well. Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, if you recall, one of our state reps, Mark Myrith, was here a while back, and we threw at him, hey, you need to fix this down in Jeff City, and that was the issue of us allowing us to waive certain fees and penalties when it comes to late property tax bills or late property tax payments. Because right now it's only, hey, if it's a county fault, we can waive it. Other than that, we can't. And we've found a lot of issues where people shouldn't have to pay it, but the The law is not like we like it to be, so he just let me know today. He called me earlier. He said he's filed that. If anybody wants to follow it in the future, it's HB 3381. He said he filed it in the Speaker's office now and will go to be referred to committee to be heard, I guess, next week, I think he said. Nonetheless, there's already been some pushback from at least one lobbyist who says that's going to take money from the pension fund because they rely on, which I think is horrible, they rely on fees and penalties for the pension fund. And there's someone pushing the idea that, hey, this is going to allow the counties to eliminate all fees and penalties, which is not the case. It's just a case-by-case basis on those extreme cases. But nonetheless, shout out to Representative Mark Myrath, who's really pushing this for us, and I appreciate his effort on that. So thank you.
Good. Commissioner Wagner?
Thank you. Speaking of Jefferson City and other news, and I don't have a particular position, but as I am unaware of it having been discussed, I wanted to raise it. And perhaps you've read about it. This has to do with the legislation related to the Port Authority of Kansas City and its efforts, among other things, as it was described, I think, in the Kansas City Star, that would suggest its ability to do economic development work in Clay County. My very general question is whether or not, as a body, we support that. I would note, as I understand it, at least with the Senate bill, it has been brought forward by Curtis Gregory, one of our senators here in Clay County. And I'm not looking to pick fights with our local senator or anyone else for that matter, but it does strike me that as the implication, should it pass, basically suggests that a body that is personed by appointment of the mayor of the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and it can do activities outside of the city of Kansas City, has perhaps some implication for us. Again, I don't necessarily suggest that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing, and as we have interest in matters like that as a body, I guess where I'm going with all of this is I feel like there should be some discussion, perhaps even a recommendation from staff that we can then transmit to whomever we want. We haven't, in the last couple of years, set forward a set of legislative priorities from this body, and that's fine. But it does seem like in this particular case that we should have at least some position, whatever that may be. So I guess if I can task you, County Administrator, perhaps to do a little thinking about that and how perhaps you may want to talk about that with us, whether that's a discussion item for next week, a follow-up email. Don't really know, don't really have an opinion, but I do feel like this is something that we should at least have some position on. And I'll just leave it at that. And I appreciate all the work that you're going to do that I've just asked you to do. Thank you very much. But you can make the county councilor do some too, if you choose. And I don't feel bad about that at all. So, thank you.
We'll have to find out more information. Next week might be a little short on that one, but I'll work with you and find out more information about what it talks.
And I'm sorry, I was, I'm sorry, can you?
Oh, I'm sorry, of course.
I was not as prepared as my colleague to give you the legislation number. I can find that, I can provide that. But I think it's also out there in the Star as well. Definitely. But one way or the other, I'll get that for you.
Commissioner Lawson.
I just got to say, I'm thoroughly disappointed in Gregory that he didn't include us in that discussion and say, how do y'all feel about it, since it's our county? You know, I felt like we should have been involved at least. So I'll be calling him tomorrow. Wait, that's all I got.
You didn't hear it from me.
Okay.
Commissioner Withington.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You know, they also want to create the port rangers, you know, have their own police force. You know, I will say that Port KC has done more for economic development in Clay County than the Clay County EDC. I'll just put that out there. But I will also say that I think they do need a lot more oversight, and I think they have expanded a lot of authority that they probably shouldn't have. So I look forward to that discussion. Maybe we can get John to come and participate in that. Probably not, but also. Janice Carter is retiring. Tomorrow's her last day, so just want to say thank you to Janice for everything she does. Janice and I worked at Cerner together. She was in a different department when I started, but our paths crossed quite a bit. So Janice, hope you enjoy your retirement.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that at least in these comments, the counselor was not left out. We don't want you to feel ignored. Couple of things I want to point out. One is that we have an interesting intersection going on this year, and that is we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the birth of this nation, and this week filing opened for some public offices. Obviously, that is a decision for people to make in their individual lives, but I think this is a good time for us to consider the intersection of the exercise of our ability to vote with the significant anniversary of our country. And I hope that our citizens take that occasion to become even more educated when they do make their decisions on what they want to do going forward. So I would certainly recommend that. I will be going down to Jefferson City actually on Tuesday. My main mission is to advocate for children with autism. That's something that, while it's mainly in the DDRB's wheelhouse, it's something I think that we all need to make sure that we are aware of. And so I'll be going down there with the Easter Seals to try to make sure that we are that the citizens we have in this county who have that particular disability and related disabilities have their voices heard. I would like to, and I'm glad these things came up, because when we're talking about the possibility of tax reform, that is something that we are all interested in. And also on the Port Authority, I was down in Jefferson City when that legislation was passed, and Clay County was consciously carved out. And so I would be interested in darkening the doors of others besides just those who are dealing with autism and those related issues. And I would like very much to understand if any commissioners would like to chat with me before I go down there, and anything that I can relate, should I be able to get the time of some of our delegation, I would certainly be more than interested in hearing it. And so really, I mean, that's a lot of it right there. I guess the best thing to say is this is the people's voice that we are doing, and I think today's meeting was very significant in that realm. We had a great board that was in here talking about that. We have citizens who are trying to do what they can do on their own property. So we've got kind of the macro and the micro as far as how we are supposed to function. And on top of that, apart from all the other things, we started out with a display of heroism on the part of our law enforcement. It couldn't be any more appropriate representation of what our business as a county is than to go through those particular issues represented by individuals, I think, who did an outstanding job of making sure that their voices were heard. And at the end of the day, that's what this country and that's what this commission is about, is hearing the voice of the people. So if you're watching, please continue watching. If you attend, please continue attending. This is your business that we're doing. Please make sure that we understand what you want and what you believe. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.